My name's Christine Chalklin, and I've kind of been a lifelong follower of astrology because my mother was very into astrology, and her mother before her as well. So it's kind of a family thing. My mother wasn't a professional astrologer, but there were always charts all over the place. Yeah, so it was really kind of around a lot, and I always thought it was fascinating that, you know, from a piece of paper you could start to unravel and talk about someone's personality and so on. I did the faculty certificate around 1993, I think, and then kind of carried on from there. One of my main focuses has always been working with people and coaching and counselling. So alongside the astrology kind of end of the 90s and so on, I was a bereavement counsellor, so I was using counselling skills. And then later on I found the whole kind of therapy. I then did some qualifications in life coaching, so I kind of combined that with astrology. And then I trained with the Bach flower remedies to work with the flower remedies. I really found the connection between, you know, kind of helping people to understand who they were, and obviously with the chart, and then looking at things that we could do to move on, you know, move on in their life, improve their life. So I would say my work is really kind of holistic. Business astrology, that wasn't something that I set out to do, but it kind of came to me through doing a lot of business networking. People said, you know, well, can you help with the business, can you help with this? And so I did do a bit of kind of looking at auspicious dates to launch a company or to launch a book or whatever. And then I did quite a lot of work with team building, using astrology for team building in offices and so on, and that was really good. I think I had a lot of really positive feedback about that, and really enjoyed that kind of thing. So also done a lot of teaching in the days when the adult education colleges used to have tarot and astrology and holistic therapies. I did a lot of teaching in Reading, and which was lovely, and the classes were always full, but then unfortunately they started to stop subsidising these areas of study. I used to live in Surrey, and I moved up to Yorkshire 3 years ago, so my partner's up here, and so I kind of had to rebuild my business here. I've kept a lot of clients from down south. I do a lot of Skype and so on, but I kind of rebuilt here, so I do still see quite a few clients here, and that seems to work quite well. Kind of showing the Yorkshire people how much astrology can benefit them, and that's, yeah, I kind of got a couple of groups going together and teaching a bit of tarot and astrology, and I run some networking groups here as well. And astrology kind of always comes up. I've just started a new group called Holistic Connections, which is kind of open for everybody to come, and we talk a lot about anything holistic, anything kind of spiritual, whatever, and everybody always wants to know where the moon is, what's going on, and so it's kind of really interesting. Yeah, it's a good group. We're kind of growing and growing, so that's nice. I have a lot of clients that come every year for an update, so we just look at the year ahead, always look at the transits, progressions, but yeah, I think I can always kind of tell when someone calls up and says, oh, I need to have a reading, and then I do the chart and think, yeah, I'm not surprised, you know, you look at Pluto's on this, Saturn's on that, and maybe they're having a bit of a rough time. So, and I just always find it wonderful how, by kind of unraveling that and helping them to understand that those transits, that's part of the life, and you can't skim over them and move on. You've actually got to work with them. And I think for a lot of people it really resonates, that they kind of know that anyway, but you know, life kind of says no, you know, do this, do that, and so I think kind of spending a bit of time on that and looking at themselves and seeing, yeah, you know, that is at the moment. And of course, you know, all transits do end eventually. It's interesting that people often say, oh yeah, well, you know, I need to be doing this by the end of the year, and looking at the astrology saying, I don't think that's going to be happening just yet. We've actually got things to get through first, and there again I found a lot of people actually agree and say, yeah, kind of on an inner level I know that, but being pushed by, you know, especially in business things, that you know, this rush that has to be done, but you know, you've got to kind of go with the trends, especially Saturn and so on, well, all of them really, but it's about what we have to learn, isn't it? If it's the person's coming for the first reading, obviously I look at the kind of character analysis and so on, and then transits and progressions are my kind of obviously main thing that people want to look at for the year ahead. And then I sometimes look at the fixed stars, which I think is quite, and kind of bring those in, because that's then another layer coming up. Last year at the conference, the astrologer Sue Martin, I don't know if you know her, but she was there, and she's written a book called Divine Design, and I just thought that sounds interesting, and I went to her talk, and she's kind of got these incredible theories. It's to do with a book called Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, and it's looking at, it just opens up a completely different dimension for astrology. And so her book, I bought it, and I have to say I haven't read all of it, but I've kind of been dipping into it and looking at it and thinking that's really interesting, because it's again giving another layer. The chart's not enough, we want kind of something else, what else is going on. And looking at this Gene Keys book is quite fascinating, that you get a completely different kind of look at the inner self and the soul meaning. So I found that very interesting. I think sometimes it's quite difficult if you kind of want to do something with the media, because generally one is misquoted and it can be quite difficult. So I'd kind of maybe suggest that people are quite careful about what they say, and I mean, certainly I've been misquoted myself, so I think probably these astrologers who've had anything to do with the media will find that it's often done in that way. And otherwise I suppose it depends what kind of astrology people are going into. Each person's different, whatever they kind of do, and how they're going to work with other people. I mean, I just think it is the best tool for understanding yourself, understanding people around you. And I mean, I think most astrologers just think, why don't people get it? It's just so ridiculous. And it is important that, we understand our kind of place in the cosmos, I think. And, we can learn so much about other people, and kind of this self-understanding, that's really important. And I found that when I was doing the team building seminars, that we all kind of expect everyone to be like us, don't we? So actually see that other people are so different, and to really kind of contemplate that and to kind of go with that is really important. So I'd certainly like to see a bit more with astrology working like that, and I think that's all of us hopefully are kind of doing what we can to spread the word, and I think that's important. And I do that certainly at a local cafe here. I've been kind of giving some astrology lessons and just giving them for free, because people haven't got a lot of money in some areas here up north, and I just thought, well, I just want to get the word out there, so I just offered a little class. And sometimes I do Saturday morning seminars, just 2 hours, and people are really interested, or make it just really reasonable that everyone can afford to. It's going to be in a new venue. I mean, we've been at in the same venue for quite a long time now, so at Boston. So we're moving just outside of Reading to a place called Wokefield Park, which is lovely. I've been to have a look at it. It looks amazing, and it's much bigger. And so we're celebrating 60 years of the AA next year. The conference is actually going to be in June rather than September, so completely different dates. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be much bigger. There's going to be tracks that are going to be videoed, and so it's going to be really exciting. So it's kind of 60 years of the AA and 50 years of conferences. So it's kind of a diamond jubilee type of thing. So it is actually called Diamonds in the Sky. With the web, there's just so much information out there. Unfortunately, a lot of misinformation. So people come back with all sorts of things and ask me, do you know this? And I think, what? No, never heard of it. And that's the problem, isn't it? That people take everything, all facts, not only astrological ones. In everything, people should just take a little bit more care about what they're having a look at. But I think social media and so on has actually been great in some ways, because you can have groups and Facebook groups, and people sharing a lot more. So from that point of view, I think it's great. I don't know about astrologers who make make kind of horoscopes and so on for a living, because there's so many free ones, so they might feel a bit but depends what we're doing again there. But I think it is great for really being in touch with people, and to me Skype is just one of the most amazing things, that you really can have clients all over the world, and it's just if you're there, so. I think it'd be nice if it was a bit more media friendly, and I think we all get very kind of upset about the constant kind of negativity spouted by mainstream science, for one, and it's but I was talking to a very scientific but open-minded friend of mine recently, and I said, well, hopefully one day it will change, and he said, no, it won't. It will never change. Mainstream science will never change. So don't bother with them. Move on to the quantum physicists and scientists. And I thought, we shouldn't really bother trying to change them, because they won't. Such a closed mind, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so really concentrate on, opening that up. And but there will be. I feel, and not to kind of dwell on the negative, it's never going to be and it won't happen, and hoping that we can still have a more positive, we all try to do our best, but it is difficult when, newspapers, television, BBC, everything is always very anti, isn't it? It's, you do feel a bit, but there's quite a few pioneers out there who are fighting it and coming back, and I think, to me, and I know when I was doing a lot of business networking, a lot of the people who attended, astrology is nonsense and silly, and I'd kind of ask, well, what do you know about it? Generally nothing was the reply, apart from horoscopes. But it was through speaking and through giving little 10-minute presentations and things like that people actually then came back and said, oh, well, I didn't know you could do any of that with astrology. That's amazing, And so I think just bit by bit, by showing people and offering it, and how they can use it and how it can help them, that is the way forward. I believe that we can help, and that's in any whether you use it for personal development, for coaching, or business, or anything really. To understand myself, certainly, and I felt, with the transits, knowing it's always hard when you see a difficult transit coming up, isn't it? That is important to kind of see what have I learned from that, not just trying to rush it through. And so I do find that very interesting. And I've done quite a lot of work lately with the moon cycles and so on, and I've presented a few workshops with groups of people, and they're finding that fascinating, and working with the cycle of the moon. And a few of the people were actually writing books and so on in that group. And I said, to try and work with, don't try and sit at your desk, beat yourself up on the dark moon, because nothing's going to happen. You just get frustrated. So use that for something different, and I think that's something I'd like to work with a bit more, kind of the moon cycles, because it's kind of something that everybody can understand. They don't need to have any technical astrological knowledge really for that. They can just see the cycle or understand the cycle and see how it works with them. I mentioned at the beginning that I've studied the flower remedies, the Bach flower essences. So I haven't done a lot with them over the last years, but they've just suddenly, quite a few people have come to me and said, oh, I want to learn more about them. Could you run some workshops? Could you do this? Could you do that? So I'm really going to start having a real look at that again, and working with the flower remedies and the importance of using them. And in fact, I'm going to be speaking at the conference next year about the flower essences and astrology, and working in that way. And I've found that it really does help, to look at the emotion. That's what the flower remedies are all about. And there is actually a moon sign for a remedy for each moon sign. I mean, so you can link up with that and kind of see how that works. And so I think that's my next kind of thing, to really kind of look at that and work with it. Mm-hmm.